My father showed up at my door after 15 years asking for money, so I gave him $1 and a letter of humiliation. It was a quiet morning, no different than the hundreds before it. I had just poured a cup of black coffee and was halfway through checking my emails when I heard the knock. Not hurried, not aggressive, just a steady rhythm that didn't match the usual delivery guy's pattern or the neighbor's occasional visit. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open without thinking. And there he stood. His face was a little more worn, his eyes sunken in just a bit, and his hair had gone from that deep brown to mostly gray. His shirt was wrinkled, collar turned up on one side like he hadn't noticed. Still, even after all that time, that same smirk was stretched across his face, the kind he used to wear when he wanted something but didn't want to ask directly. I hadn't seen that face in 15 years. Not since the night he walked out, saying he wasn't made for fatherhood, like it was a job he could quit when it got too hard. There'd been no calls, no birthday cards, no visits when I was sick. He didn't show up when Mom worked herself to exhaustion, or when I sat alone on the bleachers watching every other dad cheer from the sidelines. Nothing. Just silence so deep and long it stopped hurting and turned to something colder. Now he stood on my front porch like we were neighbors catching up. "Look at you," he said, that old charm leaking through every syllable. "All grown up. You've really made something of yourself, haven't you?" He glanced past me, eyes trailing the neat hallway, the framed diploma, the clean furniture. All of it mine, paid in full without a cent from him. "I'm proud of you," he added, like that sentence was his ticket back into my life. "Think you could help your old man out? Just a bit." I didn't slam the door, didn't raise my voice. I didn't even blink. I stared at him like I was looking at a piece of furniture I'd long since thrown away, confused how it ended up on my porch. I turned around without a word and walked to my desk. He stood there, still outside, waiting, probably thinking I was about to invite him in. I didn't. Instead, I opened the top drawer and reached in for two things: a crumpled dollar bill and a sealed envelope I had written years ago, not because I ever expected him back, but because part of me wanted to be ready if he did. I carried them both back and handed them to him. He looked at the dollar first, brows lifting slightly, as if I'd made some kind of joke. But his fingers moved to the envelope, peeling it open with a little more hesitation. He pulled out the folded paper and started to read, and I watched as the color drained from his face. The letter began simply: "This is exactly what you gave me. The bare minimum. Now feel what it's like to be on the other side." I had laid it out carefully, no yelling, no insults, just facts stacked like stones. The nights Mom skipped dinner, so I could eat. The way I patched my own clothes in high school. Every birthday I spent staring at the door, hoping it might swing open. The time we got evicted and spent 2 weeks sleeping in our old car, parked behind a diner where Mom worked. My high school graduation. She sat there alone, proud but tired, with no one beside her. The college acceptance letter I opened with trembling hands. The job offers I celebrated in silence. I ended it with a line that didn't need dressing up. "You left. And I built everything you see without you. That dollar? That's exactly what your worth feels like to me now. Empty, wrinkled, and too late to matter." He didn't finish reading out loud. His eyes slowed, his lips stopped moving, and he folded the letter with shaky hands. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The smirk was gone. Whatever he thought he'd find here, it wasn't this. He looked older than when he arrived, smaller somehow, less like a father and more like a stranger wearing the title. He turned and walked away without saying another word. 2 days passed. I didn't mention it to anyone. Not coworkers, not neighbors, not even my mother. It wasn't worth the energy. I had already given him everything I needed to, both the truth and a door that would never reopen. But some things don't stay settled just because you close the book. Sometimes they crawl back under the doorframe and wait to be noticed again. On the third day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Plain envelope. The handwriting on the front was clumsy, like the person hadn't held a pen in a long time. I knew who it was from before I even opened it. For a second, I thought about tossing it in the trash unread. But I didn't. I carried it to the kitchen, ripped it open with one pull, and started reading right there by the counter. He had written just 3 paragraphs. Sloppy grammar. Uneven lines. He didn't ask for more money. He didn't apologize. Instead, he tried to explain. Said he left because he felt trapped. Said every day he stayed, he saw his own father in the mirror. Angry, distant. Never enough. Said he thought leaving would stop the cycle. He thought absence would be kinder than failure. Then he added a line that stuck. I thought if I disappeared, you could grow without me weighing you down. I folded the letter and set it aside. That was his way of making the whole thing look like a sacrifice. Like vanishing had been some twisted gift. But he had been gone when Mom fainted from exhaustion, when I got my first job at 16 just to keep the lights on, when I sold my bike to pay for college application fees. His absence wasn't air. It was a chokehold we lived with for years. Still, I didn't respond. Not with a letter. Not with a call. I just went back to work. Monday rolled in, and I had meetings to run. I focused on project deadlines, invoices, the new intern who couldn't stop talking. I filled my time with things that made sense, things I had built. Life kept moving. But then Friday hit. I came home around 6, expecting silence. Instead, I found a figure sitting on the front step. It was him again. Same slumped posture. Same clothes, except this time his shirt was buttoned wrong, one off from the top to the bottom. He looked up when I walked over, stood up slowly like he was unsure whether I'd yell or call the cops. I read your letter, he said. I deserved that. I didn't respond. I didn't even nod. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. I thought that would be the end of it. But instead of leaving, he followed me to the doorway and stood there, half in, half out. Just give me 5 minutes, he added. I won't ask for anything. I just want to talk. I let the door hang open, waiting for him to take the hint and leave. But he didn't move. He stayed exactly where he was, arms at his sides, not pleading, not begging, just existing. I didn't want to hear what he had to say. But I knew if I closed the door, he'd probably come back again and again until he got whatever it was he came for. So I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, glancing at the walls like they held answers. His eyes fell on the photos on the shelf, me in a cap and gown, me shaking hands with the CEO of my company, me standing next to Mom on the day we paid off her mortgage. He didn't touch anything, just stared. You've done well, he said. Better than I ever thought. Still, I said nothing. I didn't need him to narrate my life like he had a hand in it. He moved toward the couch and sat down like a guest in a stranger's home. I didn't come back for money, he went on. That was desperation. Bad decisions pile up, and eventually you've got nowhere left to land. I didn't expect you to give me anything. I just didn't know where else to go. I stayed standing. He noticed. Your mom, he started, then hesitated, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to say her name. She did everything I couldn't. I knew she would. That's part of why I left. I knew if I stayed, I'd mess you both up worse. I cut in finally, voice low but clear. You left because it was easier. His head dipped slightly. Yeah, that too. There was a silence after that. Not thick with emotion, not cinematic. Just quiet. Then I asked, why now? He looked at me, eyes steady. Because for the first time in my life, I ran out of lies to tell myself. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the desk and picked up a thin folder. Inside was a sheet of paper I had printed a year ago. Not for him, just something I kept for myself. A list of things I'd never say out loud but needed to write down once to get out of my system. I handed it to him. It was a single page. No title. No signature. Just a list of facts, stacked in clean lines. When I was 9, I had to walk to school alone because Mom worked morning shifts. When I was 12, I watched her cry into the sink because rent went up. At 13, I taught myself how to tie a necktie from a library book because you weren't there to show me. At 16, I had to turn down prom because we couldn't afford it. I got my first job sweeping floors in a warehouse. I graduated with honors. I was the first in our family to go to college. I sent Mom flowers every birthday. I didn't know how to drive until I was 20. No one taught me. I learned how to be a man from people who owed me nothing. He read it slowly. His hands didn't shake, but his jaw tightened. When he reached the bottom, he looked up. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "Good," I replied, "because you're not getting it." He nodded once and stood. "Can I come back again sometime?" Not to ask for anything, just to talk. I didn't answer. He took that as a no and turned toward the door. Before he left, he paused again. "I just want you to know," he said, "if I could go back and do it different, I would." I didn't say what I was thinking, that everyone says that after the damage is done. I let the silence speak instead. He left without another word. This time I didn't follow him with my eyes. 2 weeks passed without a word. No more knocks. No letters. No żadne evidences. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It didn't hang around like it used to. It wasn't loaded with questions or that feeling of something unfinished. This time, it felt earned. I had seen him again. He had spoken. I had answered. And that was enough. I didn't tell Mom until the following Saturday. We were having lunch at the usual diner she liked. Cheap menu, good coffee, familiar staff. She had finished half her grilled cheese when I looked up from my plate and said, "He showed up." She didn't ask who. She already knew. She didn't put the sandwich down, didn't even blink. When? 3 weeks ago. Then again a few days after that. Hasn't been back since. She chewed quietly, set the crust on her plate, and took a sip of water. What did he want? The first time? Money. The second time? I think just a voice that remembered him. She leaned back, arms folded. "And did you give him anything?" I nodded. I gave him $1. And a letter. She smirked, the kind of expression that was more tired than amused. Sounds about right. Then she added something I didn't expect. I thought he might come back one day. Not because he missed us, because he'd run out of places to go. I watched her carefully. There was no bitterness in her tone, no anger. Just certainty. Like it was something she had accepted a long time ago and filed away in the back of her mind, waiting for the day it might matter again. I didn't press her further. She didn't ask for details. The moment passed and we moved on. Just like that. No dramatic speech. No emotional unraveling. That chapter of our lives didn't need to be reopened. It had already been lived through once. The next few months were quiet. My job kept me busy. I helped Mom with her garden. We celebrated her birthday with a homemade dinner and a framed photo of her sitting alone at my graduation, this time with a caption underneath. She never missed a single thing. She laughed when she saw it, but I saw her eyes water. I didn't think about him again. Not until the envelope arrived. No name on the front, just mine, written in sharp, shaky pen. Same style as before. But this one wasn't dropped in the mailbox. It was slipped under my door sometime during the night. I found it early in the morning when I went to grab the newspaper. I opened it at the kitchen table. The letter inside was short, 4 lines. "I won't come again. I've seen enough. You've become everything I never was. I thought I wanted help, but what I needed was the truth. You gave it to me. Thank you." It was signed with his full name. Not Dad. Not your father. Just the name of a man I used to know. I folded it and tucked it in the back of my filing cabinet without thinking about it. Not because it mattered, but because it didn't. That was the final word. There wouldn't be another visit, another explanation, another plea. That chapter was closed, not slammed, not erased, just finished. Weeks passed, then months. The seasons shifted. I changed jobs, bought a newer car, helped Mom get the roof replaced before winter. I kept living. Because that's what you do when people leave. You live without them. And when they come back too late, you let them see what they missed, not what they can still have. I didn't hear about him again until a letter came from the county office. It was official, his name listed at the top of the page, followed by a notice. He had passed away in a public hospital across the city. No known address. No assets. No family on record except me. They asked if I wanted the remains. If I didn't respond in 10 days, he would be cremated and placed in an unmarked lot. I stared at the page for 10 minutes. Then I filled out the form, declined custody, and sent it back. He left. then came back, then left again, this time permanently. And I had nothing left to give him. Not money, not space, not even the dignity of a marked grave. That may sound cold, but he didn't earn more than that. His legacy was already written, in the empty seats, the unanswered calls, and the moments I endured without him. Still, I didn't hate him. There wasn't space for that anymore. Hate takes up too much room. I had outgrown it, just like I'd outgrown the need for his approval. A few days later, I went through an old shoebox I hadn't opened in years. Inside were pieces of the past, report cards, photos, drawings from grade school. At the bottom was a torn picture of me as a kid, sitting on the front steps of our first apartment. My knees were scraped. My hands were dirty, but I was smiling at the camera. He had taken that photo. I kept it, not because it meant something, but because it reminded me that once, a long time ago, he had been there. Just once. Then never again. The rest of the story was mine. So I went on. I lived, I worked, I laughed, I failed, I rebuilt. I kept showing up for the people who mattered. I answered every call from Mom. I never missed a birthday. I didn't leave when things got hard. I became the person I needed when I was younger.